A new survey has found that U.S. companies operating in Taiwan are generally optimistic about economic growth. But Amcham Taiwan says business leaders have concerns about energy, regulation, and trade, just as the U.S. threatens new tariffs. Joining us now from Taipei is Amcham Taiwan Chairman Albert Chang, joining us there in our bureau. Albert, thank you so much for joining us. I kind of want to just throw up a quick chart here at what's at stake for Taiwan potentially if we do see some type of trade war. We talk about how China's dependence on the U.S. is quite tiny, but Taiwan is certainly taking a big piece when it comes to exports to the U.S. It makes up more than 20% right now. How concerned are you and U.S. businesses of a potential trade war between the U.S. and China?
Good morning, Yvonne. Thank you for the question. Of course, there's a lot of concern here, just like there's a lot of concern in a lot of the different economies. Taiwan will feel a direct impact of this. Taiwan's economy is also unique in the sense of its interconnectedness with global supply chains. If you look at semiconductors and go down all the way down the line of different industries, this is a highly interdependent and interconnected economy globally. So any looming trade war will affect Taiwan. It will affect companies operating here. Our hope, though, is like many issues that have been raised like this in the past, this is day one of an evolving topic that will wind up in a much better place on day 100 than it wound up on day one.
But with Gary Cohn's resignation, I mean, he was kind of seen as this more globalist view within the Trump administration. Now that he has decided to step down, are you less confident now that perhaps these cooler heads will prevail?
Look, I think with different situations happening now, I think it's all very new, and we're waiting to see how these things play out. What we do know is that we launched a business climate survey recently, surveying the 1,000+ members we have represented for Amcham Taipei. And what that business climate survey told us was that this general U.S. Asia trade relationship, there's a lot of concern. 70% of respondents found that the decision to withdraw from TPP puts U.S. companies at a disadvantage in the Asia Pacific. So there's a lot of concern. It's not just with this one resignation, it's the broader envelope of U.S.-Asia trade dialogue and trade relationships.
On the political front as well, I mean, Taiwan is still the true democratic nation, I guess you could say, in Asia that is Mandarin speaking. How important is that when it comes to U.S. businesses operating in Asia?
I think what we found from the business climate survey is that there are many strengths from the Taiwan economy that U.S. businesses are taking advantage of to see their revenues grow. If you look at the manufacturing expertise here, you mentioned talent. It's one of the most highly educated and some may say, trustworthy, hardworking workforces globally. And so if you look at things like IP, patent linkage protection, there are many, many things about the Taiwan economy that help U.S. businesses prosper here. If you look at the survey, 80% of companies expect that their revenues will grow here over the next 3 years. Almost half say that they plan to increase their employment and investment over the next 12 months. So this is a confident, positive environment for business across industries here in Taiwan.
Albert, I'm curious about taxes. You know, we've implemented tax reform here in the U.S. Corporations are getting a pretty significant tax cut. Did any of your members talk about how that might affect their own competitiveness and their own business with their own relations with U.S. business?
I think the tax reform in the U.S., the developments there, they've been viewed quite favorably, actually. And in the survey, you see positive remarks about tax reform on U.S. business operations globally. So I think that's a plus. I think what you see more specifically, though, is there are pockets of investment opportunities around things like green energy, biomedicine, smart machinery, IoT. And if you think about tax reform in the context of additional investment, both globally, but also back to the U.S., given the interconnected nature of this economy, I think that's really what the business climate survey has been telling us.
And Albert, did anyone, in this survey and just talking to your, to your member companies, are any of them saying at all that, given the political climate, given what we're seeing with, the impact in tariffs, maybe it's not as big on Taiwan, but certainly big throughout the Asia region, that they were less certain about making investments here in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, if you are a business here, or if you're a business anywhere in Asia or globally, what you value is the same. You value predictability, stability, and consistency. And I think this talk of trade tariffs, trade war, I think it goes against those kinds of themes. And I think that undertone was in the survey, and in a lot of the survey remarks, you see a lot of uncertainty towards U.S. positioning on trade, and we hope that this evolves in a much better position. I think TPP was something that Amcham supported quite strongly. We were sad to see the withdrawal, but we hope that something else can take its place that provides an envelope for better trade relationships in the region.
Albert, which sectors do you think are most vulnerable, I guess? Because, you know, I take a look at the semiconductor business in Taiwan, and certainly they're being squeezed by the likes of China with these more low-end type of products, and South Korea, on the other hand, when it comes to the higher end.
Look, I think it's a great question. It's a complex question. Taiwan's economy is in a moment of transition right now. They're transitioning into an innovation-based economy. Now, what that means is, given the pressures from different geographies right now on traditional contract manufacturing, where the margins are in single digits and going lower, I think what it means is there's a real impetus for innovation. And I think 40% of our respondents' companies said that the future in the Taiwan economy is a future about innovation in products and services. There's also a big theme around digital transformations and IoT transformations. So rather than risks, I think the opportunities are really around these types of innovations in products and services and digital transformations. I think the good thing is that companies find the raw ingredients here to support that kind of innovation. The IP protection here in the Taiwan economy, the labor force, the manufacturing expertise, these are all the ingredients that you would need to support this kind of innovation and digital transformation.